Hey, everybody. How are you today? Welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Relationships. Why? Because we all want to be happy. And if you are not happy in your relationships, come on, let us help you. Because you know what? We've been there, done that. And, I'm the money chick. And people are like, Julie, why are you talking about all these things with relationships, work life? Everything has to do with how we are authentically showing up in the world. And the money is actually the result of you aligning with your heart and your soul in your relationships, your work life, your health. We got to activate those souls, ladies and gentlemen. So Rita's going to help me here because she's the expert on the relationship side, as you guys are well aware if you've joined us before. So thanks for coming. Rita, what's going on, my friend?
Valentine's Day is coming up, and I've got a lot of women who I work with because I'm a women's narcissist recovery coach. And so I work with women who are either still in a toxic relationship or looking to not get into another toxic relationship. And with Valentine's Day coming up, all of these thoughts and feelings are being stirred up for people around love and romance. And I don't have anybody and nobody wants me and there's nobody good out there. And why should I even bother? And life's, I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. And I'm okay with that. And, all the stuff is
all the ways that we mentally justify whatever's going on in our lives.
Right. Exactly. I remember,
it's exhausting.
I remember something like 15, 20 years ago, I had to start looking at success. And I remember thinking, how am I going to look at my life and feel successful? This is crap. My business isn't doing, all of this stuff. How do you look at a relationship, a loving and romantic relationship, and stay in a place of love no matter how the other person behaves?
Oh, that is so true. Oh, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm. And that's the key. And that's the key actually to all of it is when you learn to put yourself first, as soon as you feel unhappy, scared, angry, frustrated, uncomfortable, if you stop powering through it and you start saying, oh, look, I'm uncomfortable. Maybe I should let some sunshine warm my face and then I'll feel better. Maybe I should dance for 3 minutes to Janis Joplin. Absolutely. But what we do is we wait. It's like we have to suffer in order to earn to be happy. Like we don't.
Let me hip check in. We don't have to, ladies. We don't have to.
Right.
We choose to suffer. Like so many people get mad at me and I'm like, you've created exactly the life that you have and you have made choices and you chose that. And I know that's hard to hear, but guess what? I understand there's a huge grieving process there. Trust me, I'm a divorced mom of 4 kids. And when my 4th one was 2 years old, that process started. You know what? I had to grieve a lot in the fact that I created it. I was part of that creativity.
The side effects, though, once you own that you are completely 100% responsible for the choices that you make in your life, it means that now you can do something about it. So if you're in a relationship that is insensitive to your feelings or doesn't respect you, they're insensitive and they don't respect you because you aren't holding them to a line where they're required to respect you, where they're required to treat you a certain way. I used to teach kindergarten long time ago, my first career. And one of the good pieces of advice was start things, whether it's the day or the conversation or whatever, with a high bar. And assume and expect that the kids will be able to rise up to that high bar and support them and nourish them, but assume that they're going to be able to reach that. In your romantic relationships, assume that you deserve to have somebody who cares about you, and that possibly if you start behaving and expecting them to behave in a certain way with compassion, when you have compassion for it, it starts to change, you know, and you found out that it goes in ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah,
That
it certainly does.
Yep. And then their behavior will get better, and then their behavior will get worse, and their behavior will get better. But you start to get a handle on it. You start to be able to shape it and mold it into.
Well, and can I say, you start to remove yourself from it so that you're not the reactor, but you're now becoming the observer. Like, I realized, you know, people would tell me for years, like, Jewel, just stop it. Like, just stop responding to him. Like, I have 4 kids with this man. How do I stop responding to him? Like, I didn't know how to do that. That was never shown to me, right? I have now learned today how to not respond whatsoever. And I'm completely detached now. And I'm still raising 4 kids, 50-50 custody, with a person that I don't physically see or directly talk to, because I am not doing that anymore. It's just not a safe place for me.
Right. You respected yourself.
Right. Yeah. I remember you saying to me, Rita, you said to me, if you really love, the best love that you can give this person is to actually hold extremely, extremely strong boundaries. And that is exactly where I'm at today. It took me a while to get there. And you know what? Things are falling to alignment because I cared about myself more than I cared about holding something or fixing something for the other person.
Right.
And when you put yourself first, it is amazing.
Right.
Like,
right. The whole, everything turns
amazing.
around.
Yeah. It flips it right on its head.
Right. Right.
And people would tell me, like, I would hear the words, but until I'm actually now living it, it is like crazy town. That's why it's like, when you said this morning, like, are you being a sponge or are you being a mirror? And it's like, I was a sponge all those years. That's why my physical body would bloat and explode, because I was a sponge. I was absorbing everyone's shit. Absorb, right? And I was growing. And I learned it wasn't fat. It was inflammation, which was even funnier. You know, going all these years, I thought it was fat, and it was actually inflammation. And so it's really interesting. Now I'm a mirror, holding these strong, strong boundaries. It now bounces off of me, and he has to now hold his stuff and his reality of what he is putting out into the world. You know, I talk about this, that when our son was sexually molested by his girlfriend's daughter, right? Bad, worst thing a mom's nightmare could ever be.
Well, especially with your history and your past.
Right. Well, so here he says to me, Jewel, say something. And I go, it's interesting. I didn't react. Now, trust me, I'm a South Side Irish girl from Chicago. I know how to react. You know what? I stood there in observation while I had all this stuff going on inside of me. And I just go, you know what? Whatever you put out in the world, God will, you know, whatever God, the universe, you know, I am not religious, but I'm telling you, however he was showing up in the world would come back to him. However I was showing up in the world would come back to him. And that's exactly what happened. He had filed a lawsuit against me for child abuse last June, and then the abuse showed up in his house. So this is where I share those private stories because I really want you ladies to get this. When you choose to not be a sponge and react and just be the mirror for that person, and you're holding the boundaries and you're not plugging in, it is amazing the shifts that happen.
Right. And the biggest problem that most women have is that inside they're still reacting.
Right.
And
can I share, Rita, share this real quick? Just to illustrate, you guys, I went to my car after that because I wasn't allowed to take my son with me. at that time. I got in my car. I literally, my physical body, I got a bloody nose. I got my period 10 days early, and I had to go take a shit really fast. And I was like, "Wah!" Which is the opposite the way that my physical body would ever react ever. And I literally was sitting in the car while I'm wiping my bloody nose after finding out this information. And I go, I finally figured out how to surrender. Because I literally turned it over going, there is some other orchestration going on here. And I really, truly didn't understand what it was at the time. But I now know it was at that moment in time that I chose to be the mirror and I didn't choose to be the sponge. And
Yes.
I was the sponge for all those years.
Yes.
And it's magical what happens after that. It's absolutely magical.
Right.
That's why I tell my story, because I want you ladies to get this. Stop being a sponge for everybody in your life. We care. We have huge hearts. But I got to tell you, I feel freaking fantastic now that I am a mirror and not a sponge.
Right.
You have to love yourself.
The thing that we're doing here is teaching women that how they were taught, how they were lied to, how they were manipulated into thinking that their job was to process through everybody else's emotions, was to ignore their own emotions.
Yeah.
We were taught and imprinted and brainwashed to think that a good woman doesn't stand up for herself. Mm. A good woman doesn't have a voice. A good woman manipulates things in order to people please and keep everything smoother. A woman lies about how she feels. How are you doing? Fine. How's everything going? Good.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah.
We lie all the time about how we feel.
Yeah.
And what happens when you start to become more authentic is the chips fall where they may. Mm. And you stop thinking that your little 2 to 3 tablespoons of gray matter in the front of your head understands the mysteries of the universe. You don't. I tried. Yes, but you don't. And the Catholic priests don't. And the, and the doctors don't.
Oh my God. Think about that, ladies. The little tablespoons right in the front of your gray matter in your head.
Tablespoons of gray matter. That's how we interpret the world, through that conscious mind. And we think that we can understand the hand of God. You're welcome to that. However, it's going to piss you off and it's going to ruin your life. This is surrender. When you say, I have a back pocket thing that I always tell myself when I get frustrated. And this is way bigger than my tiny little consciousness to figure out. And so when you decided that in the car, you said, you know what, this is way bigger than I'll ever be able to figure out. You were able to relax. And when you were able to relax, you were able to find balance.
And I want you to really consider, has it worked out well when you've decided to go in like the bull in the china shop and fight it? Right? Because we become scrappers. It's like, women want equal rights, blah, 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 blah. Like, we're fighting, fight. And it's like, I don't know about you, but us taking on the masculine archetype of fighting to get what we want, that has to go away, because fighting actually doesn't really get us to anything but more fighting. And I don't know.
It gets you to a certain place in your life. But you can't survive, but you can't go past it.
Right. Yeah. There's a threshold that you hit that you can't get above, which is why I think it has a lot to do with how women hit glass ceilings and they can't get through the glass. And it's because we're still trying to fight our way through. And it's like, we need to be chicks and we need to be exactly who we are and own our divine feminine energy. And part of that is allowing, surrendering, receiving. It's really this whole thing. When you are no longer a sponge, you then can receive. You can allow the space for things to evolve. You can surrender because you have the space, because you're not taking.
Because you set a boundary. So you had the space so you could breathe. And when you could breathe, you could make a different decision.
Right.
Because what we tend to do is we get frustrated, let's say with men. We'll just, say women, men, Valentine's Day is coming up.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. We get frustrated with men that they're so stupid. What if we realize that they are smart and our intuition, our connectedness, our being in regulation is smarter? It's not that they're dumb. It's that, no, they're very smart. But when we're in alignment, when we surrender, when we allow a higher message to get into our brain, we become intuitive and smarter and better able to problem solve. And we figure out our way around the glass ceiling, and we stop thinking that everybody else is in our way.
Right.
And walls start to come down because you see your way through it. You get into the flow of life instead of being on the bank, shaking your fist, wondering why the river isn't working the way that it should. Instead, this is how the river works. Now what do I want to do? Well, I want to build a boat.
So true. So true. And you know what? I dare you, like, go out and buy yourself, as a reminder, go out and buy yourself like a mirror, and a sponge. Have it sit there and go, which one do I want to be? And make that conscious choice that you are not going to be that sponge. You don't have
to be angry about it. You don't have to be angry about it.
That is a great point, because I have had that anger. I have had that unrest internally. And all that did was hurt me. Like, it really has nothing to do with anybody else. And once I could release that, like, I literally, in all my meditations every day, I give my ex-husband love and compassion. I send him love and compassion. I am grateful for the 4 beautiful babies that I have. And I'm grateful that even through all of our crazy, he is the best teacher, pushing me into the most amazing version of myself. And I send him gratitude for that.
Right.
And so most people think I'm nuts.
Well, here's why you do that. When you're thinking, that piece of crap, I can't believe he did this again. Who is suffering? Me. You are suffering. Inside your body, your nervous system is dysregulated, your heart's all over the place, you're ready to punch somebody in the face, your stomach is sick, your shoulder hurts, your back hurts. When you hate, when you're angry like that, it's you who are suffering. And so take care of your own suffering by choosing love.
Right.
And when you choose love, that's actually the answer. Because when you choose love, it's not some, airy-fairy wiggly idea. It's a chemical release. It's a nervous system response. You go from hate to love in seconds. You decide to smell a rose.
Yep. Totally.
So love and compassion for your ex has nothing to do with him.
Right. It has everything to do with shifting it inside of yourself.
Yes. And feeling the way that you want to feel. And you want to feel love and compassion. You want love chemicals and beta endorphin chemicals.
Oh, yeah.
Pain management. You want all the good stuff, man. You want all the natural high, all the natural opiates that your body.
Bring it on, baby.
Bring it on. I am going to love the entire world because, wow, does that feel good?
Yeah. And it's amazing. It's really, truly amazing.
Yes.
And, this has to do with, like, when you think about, you were talking earlier about that when you are a sponge, most of you who really do absorb other people's stuff, you had mentioned that we absorb other people's feelings when we are an empath. Can you talk more about that? Because I think that's an important thing for people to understand.
Oh, yeah. What 20% of the population has a highly sensitive nervous system, which tends to make them empathic because they're sensitive to what's going on around them.
Right.
And empathy is feeling inside of yourself what is going on outside of yourself. So if someone's in a bad mood, a highly sensitive empath, will feel their angry vibes, and
Right.
their angry vibes will make me feel angry.
Right.
And now I'm angry, and now I'm walking around wanting to punch somebody in the face. That's, you know, literally, I'm Irish Catholic too. So, you know, I'm feisty.
I know.
I have opinions about everything, which is why we get along. So, you know, when you're an empath, you're born into this world where you're feeling everything around you, and you're physically having to process through or understand or make sense of feelings which aren't even yours.
Right.
But until you understand or recognize that the feelings aren't yours, as long as you keep thinking that the anger and the hurt and the frustration is your fault. The biggest problem with childhood sexual trauma is that the child absorbs the shame, guilt, cognitive dissonance, anger of their abuser.
Okay, so wait a minute. Let me understand this. So when I was sexually molested by Father Mayday, the Catholic priest,
yep,
I absorbed all of his shame, guilt, and all that stuff.
Yep, around sex and sexuality.
Ah.
Yes.
Okay, keep going, keep going. I'm just sitting here going, oh.
Yeah, you're a kid.
Yeah, I was 5. Right.
You were 5. I was 4. You know, we don't know any better. We don't know anything about sex. It's a brand new, big experience for us. And here we have someone who's radiating manipulation and secrecy and lies and guilt and shame. And he's dealing with all of that inside of himself. And you as a kid, la, 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 suddenly you're feeling shame around sex and you don't know why.
Yeah.
You're feeling terror and rage. He was probably terrified he'd be caught. You know, he had you cornered.
Well, he did get caught. He spent 16 years in jail.
But it took him a long time. You know,
and he got over 1,000 kids. Yeah.
Time. Every child, he felt that thrill of fear and anxiety and I might get caught. I mean, how big do your balls have to be to touch a child in her own home in the middle of a family party?
Yeah, right.
That's
ballsy.
That fear, and I'm going to be caught, but I got to do it. And how am I going to make it work? And that crazy manipulative pathology, here you are at 5, feeling all this coming off of him, not knowing what it means, thinking it's yours, and not having anyone to help you process through and realize, no, this wasn't yours.
Yeah.
You don't have to hold on to
well,
this.
And I have learned that. So that's what's super interesting, that because of the incident that happened then with my son while he was at his dad's house, I have watched the therapists take this traumatic event and turn it into a growth mode, like completely opposite of what you just said. Like, I mean, opposite of what happened to me is the opposite of what happened. So it's exactly what you said, actually. So it's fascinating to me to watch it turn into something of a thing of growth, not something of a trauma. And
that's how it's supposed to be.
So that is like the trigger where I first learned how to be a sponge.
Yeah.
Yes. And not a mirror. And that's why I didn't hold healthy boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Because mom being the uber Catholic person, she couldn't even fathom that. I tried to tell her.
Right.
But
if you had gone to your family and said, we've got a creepazoid who just, I don't feel good. I don't know what's going on. And you had somebody who cared about you. They would have said, hey, Julie, what's going on? Let's talk about this. And you'd be able to unpack it, and you'd be able to use it as a growth mode about how to avoid people who are pedophiles, because they're not going to magically stop existing.
You know, what's so fascinating about that? So I had actually, it's really interesting that you're saying this, because as I went through, with my kids being at separate houses and me not, I was making sure that I was having very detailed conversations with them, like how people would talk to them if it wasn't in a right manner. And that is exactly how, when my daughter walked in on what was going on with my son, she said, Mom, you told me that people would say, like, this is our secret. Don't tell anybody. She goes, it was all the phrases that you said that they were going to say, she said. And so I knew I had to tell somebody. And I was like,
yes.
Oh. So again,
I'm so proud of you. You totally stopped the cycle. You broke the chain. You stopped it, because this was a pattern. Don't think that you were the first woman in your family lineage to be manipulated by a sociopathic pedophile.
Right. Right. No.
Family, this is a story, and you took an axe and you broke the chain. That was, one of those 1-ton chains that that aircraft carriers have.
Well, and the work that I did with Panache Desai all those years, because he was the one that helped me unpack the abuse that was buried in my subconscious mind. He explained to me that we are all connected. So it's like an energy grid. Like, I always like to think of it like when we are flying into a city at night, and you see the energy grids, like the electric lights all on. Like, we as human beings are all interrelated like that. So what I take
literal, it's measurable. We can measure the radio waves coming off of you, and the radio waves you're taking in. They can have a little sensor. You're an antenna.
Yep. And so what I've come to learn is that, by me unpacking that and me doing that, it raised the grid. It raised that. So it gave the opportunity then for more women to release themselves as well. So those of you who are watching that haven't, maybe you're still sitting in that narcissistic relationship, or you're trying to figure out what to do, or if you're repeating the pattern because you're in a new relationship, but it's still showing up the same way with a different name and a different face. I'm telling you that the minute you do release that, like, everything does open up. It's really, and it goes back to not being a sponge and becoming a mirror. That is really how so much of it happens. Mm-hmm. And you have to
give yourself the space, and then you have to give and it's all based on love. You give yourself the space.
I know. How about that? Yourself. It's all based on love.
Everything. The feeling of love, the idea of love, the action of love, even tough love.
Yeah.
But love is the vibration, the physical, measurable vibration. It's the physical, chemical being released in your body of love that changes you physically and changes the radio waves you're sending out and transforms the radio waves that come in, so that they come in, and instead of getting all entangled with all of your crap around it, it's just able to dissipate and go where it needs to go.
Right.
It doesn't get bigger. It's able to, like a wave, it's able to come and go. But it's not like you won't have more waves.
No, because we are tested from the universe. Like, again, I did not fully find my surrender process until it was exactly 2 years past my divorce. So, even those of you who are contemplating divorce, I could not wait to the day that I was divorced. And nothing changes once you have a piece of paper, because you have to change the patterning in how you're showing up in the world so that the patterns can change. And that didn't happen by getting that legal piece of paper, despite the fact that the attorneys try to tell you that's the case. Because at the end of the day, you're just sitting there.
It was you respecting you and giving yourself the space to heal. So it was like setting a boundary. You said to yourself, I'm no longer willing to live this way, and I don't care what it takes. And if I have to divorce this person in order to have enough space so that I can breathe and I can start on this good path again, then that's what I'm going to do. So if you have to stand up to a bully, if you have to lock the door, if you have to take away the keys, if you have to only communicate through divorce software, if you have to have a mediator, that's what you have to do.
Yep.
You must do that in order to love yourself enough to give yourself some space so that you can get back into a place of centeredness.
And if you have been that person that's been the sponge, this is where you'll notice in this process that the guilt comes up and the shame and because I remember feeling guilty. Like my kids, literally, they would come to me and be like, well, but mom, dad wants to da 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 da. And then for the kids, then I would then go do it. And I'd regret it every time. Every time. I'm like, how many times do I need to get punched in the nose? I'm like, I mean, not literally, but you know, it was just like, I know better.
That's what it's like. When someone emotionally attacks you, it feels like a punch in the face. But here's the thing. Punches in faces happen, and you're punching people in the face all the time. So if you're going to punch back, be intentional. Make it with thoughtfulness. It's not that punching is bad. Punching is a way, when you punch a bully in the nose, they get a message that you're not to be messed with.
That's a boundary.
So we have to take away the judgmentalism around defending ourselves and respecting ourselves. You not only don't have to put yourself in a position where you're going to get punched in the nose, but if you do get punched in the nose, you do get to punch them in the face back and walk away.
Right. Right. And then it's okay. You know, it's okay. So I know in my process, people kept telling me, well, this is how he's showing up. You have to do it the same way or else you're going to keep getting pummeled. But yet I could always be myself. So I had to find a way to still be authentically me and also hold healthy boundaries, you know, and do it in a way that I could go to bed at night and lay my head down and still feel okay.
Yeah. And when you speak the truth, no one can argue with that.
So true.
And so true. If you speak the truth of what you're feeling, of what you're experiencing, of what's actually happening, no one can argue with this. And you don't have to defend it. You don't have to get anybody else to believe you. You just have to say it, because as soon as you say it to the other person, as soon as you speak the truth in a way that they can hear you, which sometimes really is speaking louder than they are, as a shock, as a smelling salts. When you tell the truth, it lands, it shines the light on it, and it starts to unfold and change. Because as soon as you shine the light on it, it can't stay in the shadows anymore. That's the shadow work. So we have to shine a light by speaking the truth, even when it's uncomfortable and hard about a situation, and then letting the chips fall where they may.
Right. Not being afraid of the mystery. Mm-hmm. Like it's okay to not know how it's all going to map its way out. I couldn't have fathomed how it would be turning out right now in the way that it is. It's still on so many levels, just blows my mind.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, okay.
It's bigger than you. It's way bigger than you, and you'll never be able to get.
What'd you say? The 3 tablespoons?
3 tablespoons of conscious mind. That's how we determine the universe. It's really insane that we've been convinced that the whole world revolves around us. And it does. It revolves around how we feel, but we are part of something bigger. And so, yeah, it does revolve around us, all of us. And we're all communal consciousness. Mm-hmm. Yes, the big picture. Yep. So every time that an empath doesn't put up with anybody's garbage and says the truth, accepts the truth about themselves and says the truth of a situation, it opens up the door for change, for something different to happen, which is out of your control. But the universe always wants you to speak your truth in a way that isn't colored by, well, you did this and you did that. Not colored by that, but just the truth. Right. You spent $10,000 on this, and this is how it's affecting me, and this is how I need to respond in order to keep myself safe. Sorry.
It just is what it is. You know, and you said the word that you need to accept. And I want you guys to really hear that, because you know what? Acceptance is a big part of it. And I had to accept that that was my reality. You know, that's the second step in my book, Awaken Your Wealth, that I talk about, that we have to accept the reality that we have created. That is the most important step in the entire process. Because without that acceptance, you're not creating the space to create the new world that you want to be in.
Yes.
Because it just opens things up, and it's like, I have to accept the fact that I'm divorced. And despite the fact that to this day, people talk about that my wedding day was like a fairy tale. But I have to accept that it wasn't really a fairy tale.
That's exactly it. You know, and for some reason, you know, I realized, and this happens when you disassociate a lot as a kid for whatever reason, you get a natural observer. You're able to actually kind of observe what's going on and explain everything in a very rational, you know, logical sort of tone. And even if disassociation is not what we want to do, it can be a first step to getting an understanding of the bigger picture of what's going on. And once you allow yourself some space to breathe, where you can look at reality, oh, look, I'm an empath that overreacts because I don't set good boundaries. All right, well, how do I set good boundaries? Let's take a class. Let's get some coaching around it. I'm going to do a TEDx talk. Did I tell you that?
No, that's awesome.
And it hasn't been scheduled. I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm getting coaching around it. I'm getting, you know, the whole support that I need, because I decided I'm going to do a TED talk. And then you ask yourself, well, then what do I need to do to get a TEDx talk? And so, like with Valentine's Day coming up, or romantic partners or romance, we have to ask ourselves, how do I get the feelings of love and romance inside of me? What do I need to do in order to achieve that? Do I need to get coaching around it? Do I need to take more walks? Do I need to dance every hour? Do I need to get divorced? What do I need to do to feel love and romance inside of me?
Because you have to feel it inside of yourself before it can become your reality.
Right, right. And not just on a metaphysical way, but when people love to work with me because they feel better as soon as they get in my presence, because I send off a wavelength.
Right, you do.
And the wavelength is calming and centered. And it's one that makes them feel good and like they're aligned and like everything's going to be okay. Because I have love and compassion inside of myself almost all the time. So because I've got that feeling, that felt sense of, wow, life is amazing, isn't this great? It changes the attitude of the people around me, because almost everybody's acting like a sponge because they don't know how to set boundaries. Nobody ever taught them. So they're all absorbing everybody's stuff, and they're all feeling sick and toxic and overwhelmed. You know, and you can change the whole, you know, and you can change your one-on-one relationships by feeling loving inside of yourself, because then the other person entrains to that, because people want to entrain to love. They really don't want to be in dysfunction.
Right.
They want to be in harmony, in a good vibration. And so you have to hold that line of, I'm going to feel good no matter what. And if you do, if you decide to feel good no matter what, then the people around you start to feel good, and then the dynamics change.
You know, it's really interesting that you say that, because I have people are like, you look amazing. And like I hear that all the time. They're like, I can't even believe what you're going through. Like, and I go, I just don't give it energy. You know, like I don't, to me, it's like, I am in the energy of what I want to create in my life, not the energy of my past and like letting it weigh me down. Trust me, there were days that it was weighing me down, but I got to tell you, it's so much more fun to focus on what it is that you want to create, and to feel that love inside of you, and what is a healthy relationship, and build that and create that, you know, with the current man that I'm dating. And it's like, you know, it's really fascinating to me that, you know, regardless of how rough the situation is. And that's why I share my story, because it's not, people look at me and they think that it's like been easy, and it's been far from easy.
But worth it. But worth it.
Oh my goodness gracious. Like, it is like, it's the most amazing, fascinating life that I could ever have imagined.
Yes, magical and beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to hear something fun about?
I do.
I know this is fun. This is something I learned a long time ago. So I'm a shiatsu massage therapist. So I'm also, you know, trained in classical massage. I've got my, you know, I've got my license through the state, blah, blah, blah. I've been doing it for 16 years. And one of the tricks of the trade is when you have to do something that's difficult, that's painful, that's uncomfortable, you at the same time do something that makes them feel good. So if I'm working on their shoulders and their shoulders are very painful and sore and tight, I also do something like rub their head, you know, or stroke their face. This is why. The nerves for pleasure are coated with more myelin, which makes them slipperier. Because they're slipperier, pleasure gets to the brain faster than pain. If you can fill up all your little tablespoons, all your little circuits with pleasure, then there's no room in there for pain. You literally do not have enough circuits. So the race is, how fast can you do something that makes you feel good in order to fill up all the slots in your brain so that the bad stuff just sort of falls off of you because you're not focused on it. So you only have to be triggered for a moment. And then immediately it's the race to how fast can I feel good? Mm-hmm. And when you do the things that make you feel good, you no longer feel bad.
Well, and here's, you know, it's funny for those of you who are watching, like, take a look at, I had an employee just resign at the drop of the hat, because I want to point this out because this happens in every aspect of your life. So if it's not happening in a relationship, it can happen in other places. So this guy resigned, like left us hanging. Like, we helped him move here from Florida. We got all of his licenses in the last 9 months. We set this 23-year-old kid up, right? And no one else would give him a shot. We gave him the shot. And then he just used us to get to somewhere else.
And some people will.
But here's the thing. Going back to you saying, focus on the big good stuff. Literally, my brother who works with me walked into the office and tells me this. And I go, well, what is it that we really want? Because we knew his deficit sides. Like, let's make the list of exactly what we want to create. And like, who would be the perfect support person? Because he was somebody we were dragging with, not somebody who was actually 100% good support. And that is how fast you can do this. Like, whether it's in relationship or your work life or your financial life, this is how it bleeds into all areas of your life. And so, you know, and Rita, I remember you telling me from a relationship perspective, like, oh yeah, great. Like, you go have sex and then all of a sudden, you know, you're going to like shake and you're getting all the old energy off of your nervous system and you're putting all this pleasure in and all this other stuff. And I was going, tell me more. I was like,
yes, you can have, here's a little secret for trauma survivors. You can have the best sex of your life if you're a trauma survivor, because as you're unpacking all of those old emotions, you can do it in a way that's literally orgasmic. And so if you find a good partner, you don't have to re-suffer through all that trauma and be miserable in your life. You don't have to do that anymore. You can actually go and have a really wonderful release by yourself or with somebody else or whatever. You know, you can enjoy yourself as you unpack your trauma. Most women, they don't want to, they're like, oh, I've been in therapy for 20 years. I'm sick of my story. I don't want to hear it anymore. Nobody else wants to hear it. I'm tired of it. Yeah, everybody's sick of your story. We're all sick of your story. So instead,
stop telling your story.
Stop telling your story. Stop telling people your story, looking for people to validate that, yes, you were traumatized. Acknowledge the fact that you were traumatized and say, oh my goodness, how terrible. What do I need to do to make up for that? Well, I'm going to go have a lot of fun. I'm going to go enjoy my life. And not in a way that's, that you're ignoring it, but in a way that you're integrating it. So you release the pain in a way that feels really good to roller coasters, you know, boxing, if that's your thing.
Yeah, whatever it is, to change those receptors to be something of happiness as opposed to trauma and suffering.
Oh, yes. The way you stop suffering is you decide that you're done with suffering and that stop doing things that make you suffer because it's ridiculous. And you start looking for the things that make you feel good. And then suddenly you're like, wow, look at all the puppies and rainbows and unicorns running around. And there's an elf with a pot of gold. And, you know, you just have to say to yourself, I'm not going to suffer anymore. And if I might not know how to do it, but I know the answer's out there and I'm going to get help to fix it.
And that's all we need to do. It's as easy as that.
It really
is. Because you don't have all the answers yourself, or else you would have already have done it.
Right. If you knew what you were doing, if you were in charge of it all, your life would be way better, but you're not. So you have to accept what is, accept the fact that pedophiles exist, accept the fact that narcissists are running around everywhere. And instead of being angry about it, say, oh, look at these people that exist. What do I want to do? Without anger, without judgment, without guilt, just, oh, look, there's a lion over there in the field. Do I want to chase it and see if it eats me? You know, or do I want to be safe? I mean, why would you go punch a lion in the face? That's ridiculous. So stop approaching the narcissist. Just go, oh, that's a narcissist. What do I want to do? Well, not go by.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? Like I just, it's time to let it all go. Yes. That's the thing. It really is time for us to just let it all go.
Yes.
Rita, I love this. I love our chats. And you know what? We are here every Thursday at 9 a.m. because we want to help you get to the next right path. I just put in the link below. I'm giving away my book for free, Awaken Your Wealth, because it's time for us all to authentically be ourselves in the world and scream it to the world. All you got to do is pay for shipping. So click on the link. And if you need some extra help, there's a course in there that you can take too. Like after you get the book, then it'll lead you to, like, if you want some more support, there's a main course, a mini course, just to help you to whatever, to get you to the next place. And Rita, I know you have your 7-day challenges. Tell them what's the next thing for you. So if they need some more support on the relationship side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Valentine's Day coming up, what's on everybody's mind is the partner that I have is a jerk, you know, or a narcissist. How do I get out of this relationship? How do I make this relationship better? Or how do I find somebody and not keep dating, you know, or being attracted to or having narcissistic people attracted to me? So literally women can change their lives around in months. It doesn't take years anymore. So if women want to get through this Valentine's Day, they want to start a new relationship with themselves, loving themselves, then they should reach out. You can find my website, ritahickmancoaching.com, or I'm everywhere on Facebook. If you type, you know, search for Rita Hickman, you'll see my live streams and my programs. I do 7 challenges and 7-week challenges because you literally can change your life in 7 days or in 7 minutes or in 7 seconds. And when you start to learn how to flip your nervous system from off to on, then you can create, you have the ability to create the relationships and the love and the caring and the compassion and the partners that you want. It might not be with the person that you're with because they might not want a healthy relationship.
Well, and that's what happened in my world, right? Like I decided I didn't want that anymore. And he decided he didn't want it anymore either. He didn't want to go down the path to grow together. And that's okay. It's okay. Whatever that be.
You let him go and you found a relationship that's more your spiritual vibration.
I did. That's so awesome.
We let go of the beliefs that of who we should be. We accept who we are, and we take the steps that are necessary to be the best version of who we are that we can be. And that's when life comes into alignment.
Totally. It's beautiful. Great stuff.
Yes, ritahickmancoaching.com. You can find me, and we can get you some help fast. Within just a few months, you can be changing your life.
Beautiful stuff. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday, 9 a.m. Central. Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day, Julie.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye.
Bye.